So you have an idea for a nonprofit? Hate to break it to you, but you're not alone. Watch till the end of this video if you want to be set up for success for the 5 things you need to do before starting your 501c3. The nonprofit strategy nerd, and I help nonprofit leaders, just like you aspiring nonprofit leader, create an organization and life of intention, ease, and incredible impact. And that's what it's all about in the nonprofit space, is how can we make the most impact for the least amount of effort. And if you're here in this video, my guess is you're just starting to think about how can you really make an impact in the world. And congratulations for taking a first step in this journey. Today, this is video 2 of a 3-part series. If you haven't already, go back and watch video number 1, where I go through and continue pointing because it's so important to watch this video. Again, I don't want to send you here, but go here. In video number 1, I go through the 6 questions you need to ask yourself before you decide to start a 501c3. If you've made it that far and you're here in video number 2, which are the 5 things you need to do before starting your 501c3, welcome, and let's get ready to roll. So before I go about the 5 things you need to do, I'm going to create a fake nonprofit idea. If you're sitting there with an idea of a nonprofit, not started it yet, please drop it in the comments below. What's the mission or vision of your organization or this idea you have for a nonprofit? And my idea for my fake nonprofit is I want to create CSAs, community supported agriculture, which are pretty much boxes delivered to doors of fresh produce each week, or produce or livestock, whatever the good. Whatever the agricultural good. I want to create CSAs for people on link cards. That's my idea for a nonprofit, okay? Now, the first thing I need to do, step 1, for starting a nonprofit, you need to understand the need. Often, nonprofits start with an idea of a programming or just an aha moment or something that impacted you that you think might impact others. Now, you really need to understand the need for the nonprofit. This is an idea of a program I have or like a service. But I don't know if there's really a need. So for this specifically, I probably am suspecting that there's lack of access to fresh or farm-to-table produce for people on public assistance. Now, this is an idea. I need to go ahead and research it. So I probably need to talk to people that work in public assistance within my community. I probably need to run a couple of reports from different other nonprofits that are doing a lot of surveys, like Feed America might have something, or just Google around. Google is our friend, people. But really start to research. You need to know the numbers. Is there a need? And this probably needs to be more than just anecdotal. A great thing to do, which I will tell you to do multiple times, and it's probably the number 1 misstep people don't do, because you want to there's so much ego in starting a nonprofit, I hate to say it, but there is talk to people that are already working in that field. You don't need to tell them your idea. Again, you don't need buy-in for an idea right away. You need to understand, is there a need there? So maybe go into the local public assistance and say, what are people usually looking for? What's the biggest complaint? Maybe do market surveys. But you need to really know that there is a need. And if there's not, don't start the nonprofit. Now, step number 2 is learn from competing organizations or aligned organizations in other communities. So chances are, I'm a big sucker for innovation. Chances are you're not the first person to ever think of this idea ever, or has ever tried to address this specific problem. Maybe you are, but if you aren't, I think the worst thing people do, especially founders, and this is for the nonprofit and for-profit sector, is you own it so much that you spend so much grunt work recreating the wheel. Instead, maybe see what systems are already around, talk to people in competing organizations. So for me, I'm trying to address hunger or food access. So before I even start my nonprofit, step number 2, I need to go and talk to people in my community that are already addressing these issues, and talk to organizations and kind of learn behind the scenes. I probably would try to set up tours with program directors of food pantries, of soup kitchens, and really see, is that an issue? Is there really lack of access? Go behind the scenes, talk to people, and try to really understand what's the current system, how does it function, and are there gaps in services, and are those gaps what I anecdotally think they are? So again, this is not the easy thing to do, but this is if you're trying to be a stand-up person that's really focused on addressing a need in the community, you really need to do this before you go and start your 501c3. And I will tell you, duplication of services is the most frustrating, heartbreaking thing for me. If you're trying to start an after-school program that's already there in the same community and you just duplicate it, you're depleting resources for your community. So if you're really about solving problems, you really need to understand the need and who's currently addressing that need. Okay, so congratulations if you really did the research to understand the need. You maybe even have a 2 or 3 page white paper so you can kind of talk about it over dinner and have some of the concrete numbers. You've talked to other organizations and you've realized there's no access to fresh produce from farms to people that are on link cards. And you've gotten that far. Step number 3 is to create a business plan. Now, a lot of people will tell you to create a business plan that's 20 pages, that is huge. And I see so many founders spend all their time creating a business plan instead of really understanding. Like they're like, oh, I'm going to make myself feel more official by creating a 20-page business plan with a lot of abstract terminology, when they should instead be spending their time and resources on other things. Please, your business plan should at least include your mission statement, vision statement, 5-year projections. It should maybe be at least a 2 to 5 page document, but it doesn't need to make you. You're creating it for yourself. It's a plan for you. It's not proving to other people that you're legit, okay? Your business plan is the plan you will be following tactically to get where you want to go to start your nonprofit. Now, I do recommend that you in-depth, kind of sketch out year 1, maybe hiring, funding goals, programming goals, and then really see your vision for the future into year 5. Your goals should be smart. They should be specific, measurable, actionable, whatever the R word is, relevant and time-based, yeah, whatever. They should be all those things where you have a time, it's specific, you have goals, and it's important to dream big, but when you are a nonprofit startup founder, the biggest error I see people do is they create their 501c3, they do a little bit of stuff here and there, and then they never actually launch anything sustainably. I bet there are so many 501c3s floating out there where nothing's actually really done. So spend this time to create a plan, to hold yourself accountable with specific goals, and your board should also be involved. Now is the time to start thinking about building a board. In video number 3, I'll be going through a lot more specifics on that. Okay, step number 4 is wrapped into your business plan, but you also need, and I would approach this separately. Not all nonprofit founders have financial expertise, but go ahead and create a realistic financial plan. This has to have income, expenses, and I will tell you, if you are going to get donors, you're probably going to have expenses to attract and retain those donors. So start to think about things like how much will a website cost or a social media platform? What does staffing look like? Will you have staffing? Will you have volunteers? What resources? Will you have a building? Sketch those things out. And I think your financial plan should be for the first 5 years. Now, often for nonprofits in the first year or 2, you're kind of just getting started, but really look financially. 5 years from now, what is your operating budget? What are your operating expenses? How many staff do you have? And again, this is a plan. It is not written in stone, but be realistic and be honest with yourself. Again, this is not a financial plan to prove how legitimate you are to others. This is something you will then follow and strive towards and try to tactically get to. Again, I'm the nonprofit strategy nerd, and the biggest failure you can do right now is to write on this piece of paper something that makes you seem really important, but you don't actually follow. Okay, step number 5, the last step in this video before we get to step number 3, or video number 3, which you're probably all really wanting in this nonprofit 501c3 startup series, which is how do you actually start it up? But the next thing you need to do, and if you have issues in any of these, I recommend not continuing. If you're stumbling through video number 2, keep watching this until you get those 5 steps done, okay? And done correctly. Because the fifth thing you need to do before you even go about actually starting it is really understand what's the heart and soul of your nonprofit, and I highly recommend just creating what is like a one-pager, not a trifold brochure that makes you seem official, but what's the heart and soul? Like if you had a vision of what your nonprofit did and how it would make people feel, can you put that on paper? Now Canva is a good resource to do this, but start to kind of figure out what's the heart and soul of your organization. Can you put it on a piece of paper in words and pictures? And that should be your one-pager whenever you start to talk to potential board members about your idea, whenever you start to develop your team. And a nonprofit, even in the founder startup, if it doesn't have a team, it's just you and your ego, okay? So start to develop your team and take that piece of paper, maybe attach it to emails as you're trying to get people involved and on board, as advisory board members, as board members, as staff, as volunteers. Really start to write down what's the heart and soul. This is different from a business plan that's all about plans for the future. But what's the heart and soul of the mission? What does achieving your vision look like? And again, I do hope that some of these 5 steps were kind of stumbling blocks for you or something you need to revisit. I wish you the best of luck. Again, comment below with your idea for a nonprofit. If you're interested in getting some one-on-one help, there's a link below to my coffee and consulting. And if you're like, yeah, I got that, yeah, I got that, yeah, I got that, yeah, I got that, I look forward to seeing you in video number 3 of this 5-part 501c3 series on how to start a nonprofit, where I'll be going through tactically exactly what you need to do to start your 501c3.